Welcome to another episode of Bad Batch Recaps. This time we're recapping episode 14 titled War Mantle. I'm Kenjack. You see Clem below me. You're not blowing me again. We're going to make it very clear this time. And Robbie below me as well. What's going on, guys?
Good episode. Another good episode.
Yeah,
I feel here. I feel like we're kind of just in this like zone. I guess this is just what Star Wars cartoons is. I want to talk to the man in episode 1 and go, hey man, you're gonna have a good time with this. Again, Sienna, I was like, hey, I don't even say the Bad Batch. I say, you want to watch the cartoon with the Star Wars cartoon and little girl, and every time just write up, and it's a little event in the house. So another thumbs up from this guy.
How about
I love
you,
it.
Robbie?
Yeah, I thought this was a really good episode. I was itching for more Crosshair. We got some more Crosshair in this episode. We got some more old friends that we'll talk about, like getting the Bad Batch a little more knowledgeable and everything, getting back to the Kamino stuff, like the politics there. I really enjoyed this.
Me too. Just for those listening, you're going to notice this episode is going to be a little bit less produced than usual, and that's for the simple reason that I'm under a huge time crunch. So this is going to look like the back end of StreamYard instead of seeing like the normal frame and everything. So it'll look a little different, but let's just jump right into it. We start right out on a planet where an unknown clone is running away from other clones. We don't know who this guy is just yet, but he's just like running away while he's getting chased by these disgusting, nasty space dog things, which we've seen before, I think, on Geonosis and a couple other planets. But though they were gross looking, but he's getting hunted down. He leaves this little like beeping thing, which I thought it was a bomb at first, but it turns out to be that's that big bomb. Whenever you have like beeping red, that's bomb. You know,
I mean, Mando has those. He remember he puts them on the wall. They look just like that.
Yep.
Yeah, he puts them on what's his name's like plane too when he's like jets up onto the TIE
Gideon,
fighter,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, on Gideon's TIE fighter. Yeah. But yeah, red's like I think blue is transmitter color. Like red is just bomb straight up.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
And I know Red's recording as well, but whatever. Anyway, so we cut back to the Bad Batch, and they get a hail from Captain Rex back on the old holo transmitter. He says, like, look, I know you guys are probably busy. Can you help me rescue this trooper? He's a friend of mine. He needs help. And the way it's pitched to the Bad Batch is like, hey, just go pick up my buddy. He just needs a ride from the airport, basically, which is not exactly what the situation is for him right now. The batch has a little conversation about whether they should do that or not, because like they have a mission that they're currently doing for Sid. They're like, look, if we don't finish this mission, we're not going to get paid. And like, which is an uncharacteristically like a somber outlook for them, or pragmatic outlook for them. And I think Omega immediately like puts them in their place. He's like, what the fuck are we talking about? We're going to get this guy, right?
Yeah.
Dude, Omega we're currently watching, basically it's a band, and the girl lead singer is slowly like making her way up to being like the front of the pictures of all the band, all the marketing material, the album covers. It's basically the Don't Speak music video from No Doubt. I mean, I'm dating myself with that one, but that's what I thought of. She has kind of the same Gwen Stefani hair color and everything too.
True.
That's just and again, I kind of love it. I kind of love Omega just throwing her fucking waiter and throwing bows, telling these fucking like professional killers, no, we're doing this.
Yeah.
I like her being more comfortable. I think that's the perfect analogy from Clem. I can't one up the band analogy because that's perfect. I also love that Rex is permanently like rocking the hood now because he looks like a badass.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Very cool, like gunslinger vibes to him. It's so cool. So we cut to Kamino, where Lama Su is telling Nala Se how the Empire has canceled all of their contracts with them, which is something they had feared from earlier in the season. War Mantle was the program that we learned about earlier in the season, earlier in the series, where they're going to be replacing the clones and phasing them out in favor of conscription, like regular human troops. And so like they're just saying, like, look, the Empire's done. I think we're going to be essentially dead. We're dead here because like the Empire, I think, is going to destroy us as opposed to letting us like make troops for anybody else. And he's starting to realize like they essentially like dug their own grave and gave the Empire the shovel, right?
Such a good scene. Had weight to it. The dialogue was good. This was actually like one of my favorite scenes in the entire episode. And it was short. It was like, I don't know, 30 seconds long, but it was just like, oh God, this is the real stuff about the war falling apart right here.
Again, the whole building of relationships and the transition to the Empire and just what that means for just the people. And then obviously the people that had connections to the, whatever you want to call it, before it became the Galactic Empire, like just kind of like snipping it off and taking care of little things along the way. And they're going to definitely be collateral damage of all this stuff. Fucking awesome, man. And it's a little bit of history. I dug the shit out of this scene.
Yeah, that's something I think again we've talked about a lot with this series is like it fills in a lot of gaps and just kind of gives us this like minutia of like the bureaucratic changeover, which I know you had always talked about, Clem, being like one of your favorite things that you get out of this is seeing like this the switch over from the Republic to Empire.
It's just so crazy how much I love this shit, yet I hate when they're talking about, blockades and tax codes. If George Lucas had just like done it right and like just turned the ship maybe 5 degrees the other way, it would have all been perfect, but it's like he didn't and it just all collapsed. Excuse me. I went on like a slander fest of the prequels on the last My Mom's Maid, so I'm going to pump the brakes on this one. I'm not going to say things didn't turn out the way I wished. That's all I'm going to say.
You're not wrong. Actually, I did an interview on here with Kurt Matilla. It was really cool, by the way. You can check that out on YouTube. But I was talking to him about it, and he was saying how like his perception of how people treated the prequels was that like people that liked it as a kid, which would be, I think, me and Robbie, like grew up and immediately were like, oh, we still love this. This is still great because it has a nostalgic place in our heart. And I was like, no, it's quite the opposite for me. Like I loved it growing up, and I grew up to realize like, oh, these are actually objectively quite bad movies. And he was like, oh, I didn't expect that.
That was the best part is I was like trying to like be like, am I just, is it me or it's the children? I feel like Principal Skinner. But then I'm like, no, I watched this in quarantine. I watched the prequels with, all you guys who are all younger than me and grew up with a different perspective. And we're just like, this fucking shit sucks. And you said it best. Like the prequels had a nice plan, but they just didn't pull it off right. With the sequels had no plan. And that's kind of the difference between the two. I always reference that. It's kind of the perfect way to analyze those two sets of Star Wars trilogies. But again, just like either this kind of bureaucratic stuff that we could have seen coming, going into the Empire and how everything changes. And then also if Darth Jar Jar was just the way it should have been in episode 2, which we all agree was the right way to go. And it was very, very real.
Obviously, yes. So the Bad Batch goes and they land on Darrow, which is the planet they were on in the beginning of the episode. Hunter does some cool tracking shit to figure out where the trooper is and where they landed. It was a very cool scene, I thought. And by the way, just like looking at this scene right here, Clone Wars has come such a fucking long way, right, Robbie? Like, imagine what it looked like in season 1.
The animation there is I mean, we wouldn't have gotten like any texture on the mountains. I feel like it would have just been like smooth rocks that they were climbing up. But yeah, that looks like a scene out of like Halo 3. I was getting some Halo vibes in this episode, even with I guess when we get to the Commandos, because that game always kind of reminded me of a Star Wars Halo type deal on Xbox. But yeah, look at that. That looks like a Valhalla or whatever out of Halo 3.
That is a amazing pull, Robbie. That is an incredible pull. The second you said that, like all that just clicked into place. That is literally like this. You're on a ring in Halo in this map or on this in this whole mission. That's crazy.
I'm gonna start doing the tracking thing too. So I've thought about this. It's like whenever someone goes to the ground and they just like pick up some dirt, they can tell you anything in the world, and you're like, yep, that person knows what's going on. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna go to the mall and go to my kids and just like rub the floor and be like, anti-end. Yeah. 3 stores that way. You could smell the fucking butter in the air. Yeah, like, oh my god, Dad's tracking now.
This guy's a genius. It is an infinitely cool whenever someone just smells dirt and they know what happened, everything in the history of that land for the last like week. But yeah, it was so cool. They track him up to this mountain and they find out that there's this massive Empire facility built right into it. And this is a note, like the Empire, as much as they built like big sanitized things like the Death Star, they also did a pretty good job like ergonomically building stuff into planets. Like in almost all the bases we see, they're built into the landscape. It looks cool. Like the fucking Star Killer base was built.
I was gonna say Star Killer is like a secret base. It's like a planet base, but people just thought it was a planet. They somehow hid an entire planet-sized base, and it was like they said Death Star, Star Killer. Star Killer.
One big bump up. It
and
looks cool.
Don't forget Star Destroyer was kind of like their like entry into it, and then they just kept growing off of there, right?
Yes.
And this could just be me, but is there a chance that this could be the base? And my brain, like I don't remember anything, but the second Spielberg's second season appearance, is it this planet? Because I feel like this is kind of the vibes I got from that, right?
So that was one of the things I thought about when I was just thinking about the whole ergonomic built into the thing. I was like, that base that Bill Burr was part of definitely looked a lot like this too, where they was like you had to go through the mountain to get to it. I don't not that I'm not aware that it was the same one. I know this is like they said this is a trash planet way out in the outer rim. I don't think that's where they were in Mando, but I couldn't say for sure. Gonna double check on that for sure.
I would love if they do bring some Mando stuff back. Like if we go to that base, but it's when it's being built or something, like give us some Mando shit, some Mando origin shit, and it doesn't have to be beat over our heads, but subtle stuff. And because I'd almost love to see some Mando stuff as much as I'd love to see again. If you're thinking about Tatooine, go to a Mando planet instead. We've even
kind of gotten it with Fennec Shand. Like we've already they're priming us up for that. So you're definitely on the right track, I think. So they're looking in this facility. They notice that some of the troopers are commandos. You can see one of the commandos there, and they notice that the rest of the troopers have some different armor. This is like a precursor to what we're going to see throughout this, as they realize like this isn't really like a clone base. This is like a TK base. They're staffed by TK troopers more than anything else. So Hunter, Tech, and Echo, they infiltrate the base. Again, realize that these are completely different troopers. They find out where our boy is. The clone, by the way, I almost forgot to mention, the clone's name is Gregor, which is something that I think immediately set off alarms for me and Robbie, because we didn't know like his CT numbers or anything like that. But we knew like once he said Gregor, we'll get back into him more later, but he's a Clone Wars and Rebels guy. So they find the trooper. You see him right there. Looked way better than we had ever seen him. That's for sure, because Louis looked like shit whenever he was on the previous animated adaptations. And while they're trying to escape, they accidentally set off the alarms by using the clone trooper codes instead of the TK codes. And this is when like they start doing the escape. And I feel like we've done a lot of snatch and grab episodes, but in this episode, I think because we're in such a more Empire facility, they really hit us with like the old school, like A New Hope music, and like the like, and that like really got the juices flowing really, really, really hard, right?
Every time. The way they integrate the original score and also make it new in all of the animated shows, fantastic. I also I think we've said this on My Mom's Basement a ton. What's her name? Natalie Holt, I think, who did the Loki score. Need her to do a Star Wars project. I don't care if it's an animated project, a movie. She was so good. One of the best parts of Loki. I think she's like perfect for Star Wars.
You know what? I'm going to break it now. Breaking. She is going to be the director of music in Waldron's Star Wars. We're just going to throw it out there. Let's just fucking put it.
Perfect.
And we're calling it July 30th, 2021. Right now, we're calling it. So just so everyone fucking credits us whenever it does come out.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Yeah, her score on Loki elevated that to a whole new level. And it was funny. I was just watching the movies that made us, and I was talking to you about this, Robbie, at work. In the one about Home Alone, they made the entire movie. It was still a good movie, but they had like this freaky Roadrunner soundtrack on it, and like they're like, "Oh man, this really sucks." And then they're like, "Yeah, why don't we just ask John Williams to do it as a joke?" And they sent him the script, and he loved it. So he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then we ended up getting the Home Alone soundtrack, which is iconic and so wonderful and magical. It's funny how like that can just elevate a project to a totally different level. And it did with this too. Like I might not like this episode as much without the incorporation of all those old like Star Wars themes, which is like harken you back to that era of the franchise, so to speak. One of the commandos shoots Gregor before he gets stunned like 1,000 times, which this episode really was like an eye opener for what the stun technology is like, because not only did Gregor get shot twice with the stun gun, and the first one only stunned his leg. I didn't know that was a thing. This guy gets stunned like 200 times before he goes down.
The fucking stun, like this is to the point now where I can't take this shit. It's like we were saying in My Mom's Basement, I think season 1 of Mando, we're like, dude, stop with the fucking flamethrower. And they like the flamethrower would be like 3 times much the next episode. The stun rate is being obscene now. I understand, like, you don't want to just kill these people because they are stormtroopers up. It's getting ridiculous now.
You open the floodgates, Clem. You were saying like, oh, I can't wait to see more stun gun, and this is nothing but stun gun now. Literally nothing but stun.
I need to look into whether or not Dustin Poirier had one of those leg stun guns, because twice now things have been suspicious.
Immediately shut down McGregor's leg. Yeah, extreme. Yeah, sus meter is up for sure. So the Omega and Wrecker go to pick up the rest of the crew that's here on the base before they get ambushed by a bunch of V-wings. This was a cool scene. It reminded me almost of Temple of Doom. You know, when they're like outside the entrance of their mine shaft and stuff, a little bit like that. They try to pick them up to get ambushed by V-wings, have to fly off. They lose power, but Omega plugs in the Gonk droid to the ship to get more power. I had no idea what the purpose of Gonk droids were in the actual Star Wars properties. Only that in Battlefront they gave you ammo, but so like seeing them actually do something was crazy. So he helps the ship, very much like the Phantom Menace scene with R2 on the Naboo cruiser they used to run the blockade, right?
Dave Filoni gives a purpose to everything.
Exactly. He's the stopgap guy for everything Star Wars, which so that part is really cool. They lose Hunter in the exchange for the ship, and he's captured by the Empire. This is just hilarious to look at. He fell so far.
It's like the Simpsons meme, like going through the window.
Yes. He fell like a mile down. He like this hilarious fall down the mountain, and then he ends up getting captured by the Empire troops. And in jail, he meets Crosshair for the first time face to face in a while. They had obviously faced off on that trash planet earlier, but this is like the first time I feel like they got like true FaceTime since the defection, so to speak. Meanwhile, back on Kamino, Nala Se is captured by Rampart's troops while trying to gather up the medical personnel to flee Kamino. Lama Su kind of plays dumb, but he's like, he kind of gets the tables turned on him a little bit. Rampart's like, yeah, like I know I captured her. I know she was doing something fucked up, but I'm actually going to arrest you because I have no need for a politician, and scientists will actually be useful to me and the Empire. So that's our episode kind of wraps up. As far as recap or just instant reactions to this go, I thought this episode was good, but I also do feel like in a sense, so many of these episodes have had the same overarching idea, and that's like a snatch and grab. Right? It's like seeing the same car 20 times with different interiors each time. Like it's like the same basic thing, but like it's like different on the inside, but like it's, I don't know, on its face, it's so similar. And we're obviously going to get away from that because this episode, I think, is going to be or the next two episodes are obviously going to be a little bit different. But yeah, this has definitely felt a little too familiar, but also some of it I think was really good. Like I was saying before, when they used like the old school music, seeing Clone Commandos was awesome, and seeing a lot of the other stuff, which we don't really get a ton of, was great. And a little bit more exposition or just characterization for some of the other guys too. Hunter is on the death path, as Clem would say. But what did you guys think?
I co-sign what you're saying about the snatch and grab and it all feeling the same and all that kind of stuff. I will say though, it just is a little bit better than all the other ones. Why? Because we didn't have to see Sid's dumbass today. So like anytime we don't have to Sid this episode, I'm gonna chalk that up as a W in the win column. And yeah, I mean, basically, Hunter is fucking Matt Damon at the end of Departed. Just fucking kill me. Just fucking kill me. He's in the elevator. Like, just kill him. We've said he was gonna die like episode 5. I feel like we're like, well, Hunter's cooked. That's fucking sad to see. And another thing, kind of like you said with the New Hope cues, the music, getting the TIE Fighter laser sounds. You know what I mean? That was very cool. Very cool to see.
Out of the V-wings, yeah.
I definitely agree with everything you said, Ken Jack. Felt familiar. This episode did feel just a little bit cranked up to 11. You get the commandos, like you said. You get some stuff with Kamino. You get some stuff with Crosshair. So it gives you the little hints. In the next 2 episodes, I would like to see more. Rampart, as I'm looking at him, just what a hateable animated face they've given him. Everything, the haircut, everything about him. It's just like, ugh. He's the enemy team's baseball coach. You know what I mean? Like he looks like the enemy team's baseball coach at all times. I just hate him. His little pens he's got in his pocket. Yeah.
Remember Mando? We learned that those are actually like code things. Remember? I almost forgot about that. Oh yeah,
he puts it in the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that.
And look at his like fucking whatever it is, like his medals or whatever you want to call. Like he's not even that good. He fucking carries himself like he's fucking Tarkin or some shit. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
And he's always got the like faux concern vibe to him, where he's just he's like, that sucks. I'm gonna have to arrest you. It's terrible. It's like, he's such a dick. I can't wait for him to get presumably killed or exiled. Actually, it's the Empire at this stage, so I don't know. But yeah, we can get into some Easter eggs. Like we were saying before, Gregor is someone that we've seen before. So Clem, this will be a little bit new for you. This is where we first met him in Clone Wars. Again, think about that shot we saw earlier of the mountainside, and look at this now. This is what Clone Wars used to look like. It's crazy how far this show has come. It's nuts. But in Clone Wars, we meet him. He's a commando that, or former commando, Republic commando that had amnesia. He helps this little slug commander guy in R2D2 complete this super secret mission that they were on before getting his memories back. You see when he gets his memories back, he's back in his full commando gear. Again, this looks like a poorly rendered like previs video game, and then like you go back to the shots in this episode, in this show, it's crazy. That's
64. That's Nintendo 64 right there, basically, right? Compared to like
the backgrounds are just they're like, we're gonna blur out the background a little bit, and people won't focus as much on it.
When you said, his name's Gregor, little hints out there. And again, my non-Clone Wars watching ass is like, we're talking like Game of Thrones, the mountain, like Gregor Clegane, like what's going on here?
He's a pretty cool guy. He's a little bit touched, I think, later on in the series later on in just Clone Wars timeline, whatever you want to call it, because we see him later on in Rebels. He's on Sealos. That's what he looks like in the future. He's the guy in the center.
Yeah.
He looks very, very different, as does Rex and I think Commander Wolf in that as well. He's kind of like a big game fisherman at this point in the show. They're like
living the good life.
They're all like out and hiding and like on this big desert planet, like trying to hunt these big ass like dune space worm things. With Captain Rex and Commander Wolf. They help the crew of the Ghost, which is you see them kind of roll around here, escape Admiral Thrawn, and he dies in the process. Very sad scene in Rebels, but it was a good one. That was a really good, I think, arc for them, and it was really cool. I remember when we first saw Rex in Rebels, it was like awesome, and it was almost the same exact feeling. Like that didn't get numbed at all when we saw him in Bad Batch. It's still like I love Captain Rex. Everyone does. He's such a fan favorite,
and I love that he almost like connects like all the animated series. He's in all of them.
Yes.
The name Captain Rex too. It's the perfect name. Like Captain is like he has authority, but Rex is like, oh, he's your pal though. Captain Rex. You know what I
mean? and Rex in Latin I think means king too, so it's almost Captain King. Ooh. It's like bizarre. Ooh. Such a cool name. But yeah, so anyway, he was like we were saying before, clone commanders, clone commandos we've seen before. The Bad Batch themselves are considered clone commando squad, but there have been like other ones that we've seen before in the animated world, like the one that Gregor had led before. And in Clone Wars, there was a commando team that we'd seen briefly discover the presence of Savage Opress after he had killed a Jedi and the Jedi's Padawan. But they're, I think, mostly known from just the incredible game. Motherfucking the best Star Wars Republic Commando. Such a great game. I remember putting an insane amount of hours into this, and they were not technically part of canon until being introduced into that previous episode I just showed you, and that's when they were brought in, so to speak. But this is a great game, and I loved this growing up. Robbie, did you play a lot of this, or Clem?
Oh, yeah. I used to rent this from Hollywood Video in South Hackensack. I never owned it, but I just rented it over and over and over again. And this was sort of like a Halo-esque Star Wars game in my eyes. Even looking at that screenshot, that pistol looks like the Halo pistol. Or I don't even know if that is a pistol that he's holding, but whatever he's holding looks like the Halo pistol. But yeah, this was just a great game. Seeing the commandos in animated series always makes me happy. The light up helmet, badass, like so cool. So yeah, I was really happy to see him in this episode.
This is probably a blind spot for me in terms of like video game times. I think at this point I kind of like I would say either I now had like Madden and like two other video games, like Grand Theft Auto I would play or whatever. At this point, I feel like I had been kind of knocked out of the Star Wars base, both on the prequels kind of knocking me out, and the fact that I was like, I just can't go back to Hoth one more time and have to like trip up the AT-ATs. I've done that fucking mission. Like it's in every fucking Star Wars game. So at this point, I feel like they got past it. This actually, if you told me this screenshot was the same as that old Clone Wars screenshot that you showed earlier, it feels like the same thing, right?
True. Yeah. But yeah, you're right, Robbie. Like the HUD and the what do you call it? The gun does look like that old pistol. That is crazy. And this is like 2005, so I could see that definitely being a blind spot for sure. But for me and Robbie, that's like prime video game. Like this is when I was 12. And this came out, so like 7. This is like so this is for me like right in my zone for sure. This in Battlefront 2 was like right at the perfect time. But again, very, very, very cool game. And you're lucky, Robbie. You're about to get a Lord of the Rings reference. The tracking scene where he kind of breaks down what happened and how it all happened. It was very eerily similar to a scene in the Two Towers where Aragorn kind of breaks down the abduction of Merry and Pippin into the forest. And I think, again, Lord of the Rings watchers will get this one. So if you're out there, I know you appreciated that. I know, Robbie, you did.
Is that before or after they did the long walk?
This was during which happens all threes. I'll lend you the extendos one day, Clem. You can go through them all. Like I mentioned before, like just a lot of musical cues as they infiltrate the base from A New Hope. Just throughout it, the base just looked a lot more empire-y than it did republic-y, which is this is a weird word, republic-y, but it is very much like that. And again, I think the first time that Gonk Droid that we've seen them do something useful in the series, they've only just been walking around or doing nothing in the animated series, or they've been like a thing for Wrecker to bench press and curl. Like that was it. But like they actually did something in this, which is crazy.
I'm glad you chose that screenshot. I love seeing the Lego Gonk Droid. It just brings back memories.
of the Lego Star Wars, another great game. And Hunters Fall Off the Mountain reminded me of Hot Rod a lot. If you guys remember this, the scene where he just falls off the mountain, Andy Samberg, and it takes like 20 minutes as he goes down. It was so funny. Again, maybe not an Easter egg, but it's just something it reminded me of. So any theories, questions? I think for me, I am so far entrenched into Clem's like very early on theory that Hunter's dead. Like I think Hunter and Crosshair at this point are both dead. Like they're giving off dead man vibes, dead man walking for sure. I think that we are on the money as far as saying that this episode was the start of our final arc of 3 episodes. And I do think that this rescue for the next 2 episodes are going to have a lot more connectivity, so to speak. And I don't think we stay on this planet. I think we're going to go to Kamino for the experiments on Hunter. And then we get the Battle of Kamino, which is going to be the impetus for the escape and all of that. And the Battle of Kamino is obviously so queued up now with everything that happened with Lamasu and Nala Se and versus Rampart. So I think we're prepping up for the Battle of Kamino, which could be crazy.
I hope that comes true. That's like what I've wanted since pretty early on. I think we talked about that and being like, oh my God, could they do the Battlefront 2 thing? Oh my God. If that happens, amazing. I do think Hunter's dead. I think Clem's right about that. I don't know about the other people in the crew. I feel like maybe more people will die. Maybe it'll just be Wrecker and Omega at the end, like the father and daughter vibe. I don't know, but I do think we're going to get a couple casualties in the next 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm. So is that there's 2 episodes left? Is that
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shit. I thought there was 3 left for some reason. I was gonna make my like bold prediction. It would be kind of crazy if it came true. But I feel like we're gonna get the Hunter death in the penultimate episode, just because this show has really zigged whenever we thought it was gonna zag, or zag when we thought it was gonna zig. I don't know which one they say, but I felt like it could throw us off, and then kind of the dealing with it, the smoldering chaos, and the heavy emotional trauma that Omega is going to probably go through all this. And I'm actually kind of interested to see how how her story arc becomes, because I think that's going to be pretty heavy on what builds her as a character in the future iterations of whenever she appears. And the Battle of Kamino sounds dope too, because the only real experience I have with it was little baby Boba and shit like that. So. Yeah. Not great. We're just gonna say not great, all things considered. So that's a cool ass planet to do some. I would love like a big battle scene there, but even just these guys would be cool because we're invested so much in the characters. I'm a Wrecker guy too, by the way. Wrecker's my dude. That's fucking #1 with the bullet. As long as he survives, I don't give a fuck about it.
It's funny how much it's flipped, right? Because again, for me and Robbie, we hated Wrecker going into this, and they dosed him up so much to make him. Oh, I love him now. I'm curious to see if they do the Battle Kamino, how it works. I forget how they phrased it in the prologue video thing for the battle on Battlefront. I don't know if they have maybe a secondary chip that makes them loyal to Kaminoans, and then they have to fight versus other ones or something. But very excited to see if this plays out right. I'm curious again. I think that's actually not a terrible prediction, Clem, that Hunter dies in the penultimate, and then they have to try and maybe rescue or help someone else. And I am also very curious to see how they end Omega's story, because I do think that she's not the craziest Baby Yoda level fan favorite, but people like her. I don't think that they would want to run away from her story forever. So I'm curious to see where they end up on her for sure, and to see who else dies. Maybe the whole Bad Batch just goes down, and they do the Terminator thing, thumbs up going down into the thing while Omega escapes on her own. So I don't know. Could be potential.
I just had a fucking thought hit me.
Hit it.
Sid turns on the Bad Batch.
You think so?
Ooh. Straight cash, homie. The Empire, they got fucking stacks and racks and whatever the kids say these days.
Rats them out.
I would kind of like that if she just fucking I hate her so much already, and she kind of has a little bit of that gray. She's not just a bad guy by any means. I kind of would like if she just sold out the Bad Batch just for her own financial gain. Because again, I think bad things are happening no matter what. So whoever causes it, let it be someone I hate and just lump her in with the rest of the Empire.
Yeah, maybe she's almost like the Benicio del Toro in Last Jedi sort of character, right? Where it's just hey, Empire, Republic, who gives a shit, man? I mean, money's money. I don't care. Hey, not to give you PTSD, Clem.
Kenjack, out of every part of that movie, just that fucking sequence is all I ask. Just never bring that up again. Like, Robbie knows not to do that because then the podcast becomes a half hour of me ranting like an old man.
You got to go Lando with that one. You got to be like, it's like the Lando in Empire.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Well, I think we're excited to see where we go in the next 2 episodes. I think we're going to get very connected to about this rescue. I think we're going to get the big tragic cry moment that we've been hearing about so much. And I'm again, like I said at the end of the last episode, I'm terrified. I don't want to watch it. But we'll be here to break it down next Friday as well. I'm Kenjack. Right below me is Clem, and right below Clem is Robbie. So until then, see you next time.